Well, good morning there. This is Joe Van Cleve. Today I'm going to talk about tabletop tripods again. So if you remember the last video I did on this subject, I showed you how I built this little handmade wooden tabletop tripod. And what it was a way of reusing this ball head to the Ultrapod. So there's an Ultrapod tripod. They've been out for years. It's a tiny little plastic kind of a tripod with a ball head here. And I figured out how to easily make a wooden replacement tripod that's taller than the original Ultrapod, puts it at a higher level and still makes it easy to use and everything, and lightweight. So this is very, very lightweight tripod, right? But what's specific about the Ultrapod is that the mounting point for the ball head of the tripod is this vertical fin. So it's like a fin that's about 1/4 of an inch thick, and it has a hole in it. And I had to build this homemade tripod with that vertical fin made out of 1/4 inch oak with a hole in it so that I can mount the ball head to it. And this tripod works pretty well. It's very kind of ingenious, lightweight, strong. But the thing about it is you cannot mount another kind of ball head to this tripod. It's built specifically for the Ultrapod head because of the way this little fin sticks out. And so I was thinking about building a second tabletop tripod that uses a more universal style of ball head mount. Let's see what I came up with. And this is the new tripod. There are quite a few changes to the design, but there's still some similarities with it, with the other one. First of all, it's still using the tensegrity principle of having this tension loop along the bottom of the legs to keep the legs spread out tight. And that works really well. So the joints up on where the legs connect to the ball head don't need to be beefy. They just need to be a pivot point. But there's a lot of differences also in between this design and the other one. Well, one of the obvious differences is that I'm using round legs instead of square cross-section legs. These are, again, poplar, but they're just 3/4 inch dowels. The ball head that I'm using is one of these Joby GorillaPod ball heads. And you can buy the ball head itself separate from a tripod. So it's just a Joby ball head. They're about $20 or $25 off Amazon. And what I had to do with mine is I had to put a piece of adhesive felt on the bottom of it because there's a 3/8 to 1/4 inch adapter fitting in the middle of the head, and it sits a little bit above the surface of the ball head, and it means that the ball head is only being supported on a thin little flange otherwise. So by putting this piece of adhesive craft felt in there, it acts like a spacer and helps to support the entire ball head surface onto the top of the tripod. So the tripod head the ball head is held onto the tripod with a simple 1/4-20 eye bolt, and I have a couple nuts and a lock washer set in there to preset the distance that the bolt can go up into here before it protrudes above the head. So when I screw on the bolt, the tripod head like that, and there it is. So the biggest difference though in the way that this works compared to the other one is the way the legs articulate on the head. And so let's go close up on this, and I'll show you how that works. Okay, to show you some detailed close-up on the tripod head, first of all, I've removed the Joby ball head, and this is the adapter plate that goes on the bottom of the camera. And of course, the mounting bolt, the eye bolt, has been removed. And so up here on the head of this head is a triangular head. It has an equilateral triangle shape to it. And as you can see from the underneath view of the tripod head, it's made from these 1/4 inch thick pieces of oak that are 1.5 inches tall, and the corners of these pieces have been cut at a 60-degree angle on my miter saw so that they will align together to form an equilateral triangle. These mounting bolts for the legs are 832 machine screws, and before the triangular head is glued together, the bolts have to be inserted through their holes here because they're too long to put in once the triangular head has been put together. But these machine screws go through a hole in the legs, and then there is a washer and a nylock nut holding the leg to the side of the tripod head. And then, of course, there's a hole up through the middle, the top of the head for the eye bolt itself. And the top surface of the tripod is 1/2-inch finished grade oak. And this is some of my rudimentary diagrams I was using to design this tripod head. So this is the view of the head looking down from the top, the 3 pieces with their corners cut at 60 degrees, glued together, the bolts coming through, and the way the legs articulate off to the sides of the triangular head. Here's a side view of the bolt coming through the assembly and the nuts that hold the bolt in place at a preset distance. And then this is kind of just an isometric view of the tripod head with its top plate on there. It's an 1.5-inch wide oak that's 1/4 inch thick, and it's finished grade. So once you cut it, if you make a nice good cut, just a little bit of sanding is all you need on it, and it's pretty much good to go. This is a piece of poplar that's the same size, 1.5 inch wide by 1/4 inch thick. Again, it's finished grade, so once you cut it and do a little bit light sanding on the cut, you're pretty much good to go. So easy and inexpensive to work with. To deploy the tripod, you have to pivot the legs to the side. So this one goes that way, this one goes that way, and this one goes that way. So they form a triangle like that. So they're kind of pivoting to the side. They're not pivoting straight out from the side of the triangular head. They're kind of going off to the side. But because the triangular head is a 60-degree equilateral triangle, it means the footprint of the tripod is an equilateral triangle also. And once you have the tension loop tight, it makes for a very sturdy tripod. And so when these legs are pivoting on the side of the triangular head, there's actually quite a bit of contact area between the side of the leg and the side of the head. And that, because the locking nut is tight enough, it gives plenty of support for the leg so that the leg doesn't wobble. And so it pivots on one axis along the bolt, but it doesn't wobble any other way. And of course, the tension loop stabilizes the whole thing. Another detail you might have noticed is I've included some rubber feet on this tripod. These are simply rubber feet that you can get at the hardware store. They have a hole inside, a recessed hole. You put a machine screw, pre-drill a hole in the leg, and it makes for just a nice little way to mount mount it on the legs so they will be more stable on hard surfaces. Now you might be wondering to yourself, how heavy of a camera can you actually mount on this little wooden homemade tripod and a little Joby ball head? Well, this is a 4x5 anniversary speed graphic. This is a World War II era camera. And you know, the ball head itself, the Joby ball head, is not rated for a 4x5 camera. This ball head is designed for small mirrorless cameras and maybe small DSLRs for handheld use. So, you know, this is way overburdening the tripod in a sense, but it's certainly not anywhere close to breaking because of the way the tensegrity system works with the discrete compression members for the legs and the tension loop for stabilizing the legs. Now, it's certainly strong enough to hold it. The real question is, in practical terms, would you use a 4x5 camera on this kind of a tripod? And the answer, of course, is no. You can see that there is wobble and there's some vibration and there's some dampening time that you would have to give the camera to settle out before you'd ever want to actually use it to take pictures. So this is more of just an illustration of how strong the tripod is, how much force is capable. And of course, I can push down on it also, and it's plenty strong. The real weak spot is actually the Joby GorillaPod itself, the ball head, I mean. If I took that ball head off and mounted the camera straight to the plate, it would be even more sturdy. And here is the speed graphic mounted directly to the tripod itself without a ball head. And of course, the problem with doing it this way is that the only way to level the camera is to adjust the legs. But even so, It's surprisingly sturdy for a tiny little homemade lightweight tripod. So how heavy is this new tripod? Well, it's interesting that you asked that question, because in the process of making the previous video where I weighed the previous tripod on a little digital kitchen scale, since then I seem to have misplaced my scale. So I can't weigh this exactly, but I know that without the heavy metal eye bolt and without the heavy Joby GorillaPod, it seems like it's actually lighter in weight than the 11 ounces of that other tripod. But once you add the, it seems to me that this Joby ball head is just about the same weight as the tripod itself. So the tripod's weight is negligible. It's really the ball head and maybe the eye bolt adds some to it, but the tripod itself is extremely lightweight, extremely strong, and once you have the legs spread out properly so the tension loop is tight, it's pretty stable for what it's intended to be, is for use with lightweight cameras on a tabletop surface. As I indicated earlier, one of the advantages of this tripod over the other is because it has a universal 1/4-20 mounting bolt, you can apply just about any kind of a ball head to it. This is another ball head I have. This is a pistol grip style ball head from a full-size carbon fiber Sunpack tripod. This ball head, it has more weight capability than the little Joby GorillaPod head. It has a pistol grip style locking mechanism. It gives you 2 bubble levels here and an adapter plate to mount a camera to. So just about any kind of a ball head that takes a 1/4-20 mount you can use on this little tabletop tripod. So that is the advantage that it has over the other one. Well, I had a lot of fun making these 2 tripods, and I think they both turned out pretty well. And I think they're both pretty practical. The first one I made, I left the legs a little bit longer than the second one, and so it's a little bit taller. I may decide to cut the legs down on this one just a couple inches and then put some of these rubber feet on it that are on the other one. I think as far as practicality and usefulness, I really think that this style one with the UltraPod head is a little bit more easier to unfold because this one here, the new one with the triangular head, the way the legs pivot off to the side is kind of non-intuitive because it's not really orthographic at right angles. It's sort of 60-degree angles, and it's kind of weird. But once it's unfolded, it's quite stable. So it just takes some getting used to. They're both interesting designs. They're both easy to make. And so I think this offers you guys plenty of opportunity to get inspiration for designing your own tabletop tripods. So until next time, you guys take it easy and keep shooting and building.